It should come as no surprise by now that the Kingdom of Hyrule in Breath of the Wild is insanely packed with little mysteries and secrets round every corner. A once prosperous land now run by the overwhelming wildlife, nature, and monsters. Instead of seeing festive, high-spirited villages packed with Hylians, we now find destroyed fragments of the past, inhabited by foxes, deer, choo-choo, bokoblins, and wait, what the heck is that monster? Let me take a closer look. What the? Is that Monster Maze?
Oh, hey man, I was just chilling with the boys. So, what's up? How's it going?
Oh, you know, I was just about to talk about some of the mysterious ruins found across Hyrule. You know, 100 years after that whole calamity hoo-ha.
Nice, nice.
Yep. I mean, you're welcome to join me if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to, but I don't want to leave the boys. Let me just check with Larry if it's okay to leave early for a bit. Oh, he says it's fine.
Alright, well today, joined by surprise guest Monster Maze, we're going to be taking a look at 5 mysterious ruins found in Breath of the Wild, in what is part 3 to a little mini-series I've got going on now. The first 2 episodes will be linked below if you want to check them out. We'll also be doing a video over on his channel which you can check out after this one. As is tradition around here, our guests always get the honour of the Hyrule Gamer line. Take it away, Mr. Monster. Sorry. Take it away, Mr. Maze.
Well, be sure to grab yourself a snack or drink, folks, and send them in on social media to get featured right here. And now let's take a look at 5 mysterious ruins found in Breath of the Wild.
Something that is often forgot about life in Hyrule 100 years ago is the sheer size and population the kingdom once had. Creating a Champion briefly touches on the population difference, highlighting that the most dense region was of course Central Hyrule. This was of course down to the thousands of Hylians that would have lived within Castletown and the many nearby settlements, but a large contribution of that density was actually the Hyrulean forces serving the royal family. From lower ranked watch guards to the illustrious royal guards, the royal family had an army, which is what leads us to this ruined remains. The military training camp. Located across the moat of Hyrule Castle to the northeast on the hills of Rauru Hillside, we can find the destroyed and consumed remains of a once brutal training course for the legions of Hyrule, but now infested by monsters. Due to the damage inflicted, we can't really figure out if there were any set routes the training soldiers would take, or if there were individual setups to work on specific situations. We can see climbable towers, presumably built for training archery and or high ground combat.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
We can also see a few bridges over the bog, which if I had to guess was probably water in the past, as if this was a sinking mud pit back in the day, it would have been too dangerous for training. I mean, look at how the literal hero of Hyrule does against the mud. Yeah, the cause of this mud overload was probably due to damage inflicted during the calamity, possibly mudslides from the surrounding hills and inevitable rainfall. The overall complex of these ruins appeared to be that this camp was very endurance and strength focused. Lots of space to run, climb and defend. There was also a mid and lower tier with a few towers and more walkways. Perhaps this lower tier had more of a focus on combat and one-to-one training. Or judging off the view from the bottom, there was maybe once some sort of uphill course to reach the top. Almost like a tower defense sort of situation. We can actually see this location in Age of Calamity, but sadly it's nothing more than a background image. Something interesting to take from this location is that following the calamity, there have been new additions made. We can see a monster tower built into the lower level, along with a few bokoblin skull camps half in the mud. It is clear these ruins are no longer of Hylian ownership, and now a home for some bokoblins. This location was actually suggested quite a bit to be covered, and honestly I think it would be so cool to see this play on a day-to-day basis back in its prime. I can only imagine the brutal training the soldiers were put through.
The northeastern region of Akkala is definitely the most empty part of Hyrule. Empty not meant in a bad way, rather empty from settlements, wreckage and constant havoc. Sure, you can find the odd monster or two and a few small wreckages, but other than that, this region is mostly nature. However, if you look to the coastline cliffs, we can actually find a couple of interesting ruins. Located at the top and bottom of this large slope south of Rift Peninsula, we can find what appears to be a small building or temple. Now, we can actually put the claim of it possibly being a temple into the mix, as if you look closely, this building is actually the same architecture as the ancient columns found all the way across Hyrule in the Tabantha region. We can see this as the flooring and pillars are identically designed. We know that these ruins date back millennia upon millennia, as far back as the times of Skyward Sword, meaning that these ruins were also likely constructed around the same time frame. The structure at the top of this slope doesn't give us much to theorize over, but if you head down the slope, which might we add does not have any path or any other access points, we can find a similar set of ruins but with something even more interesting about them: a lone Sheikah orb in shallow water. This is what makes these coastal ruins so fascinating. Why is there a Sheikah orb left here and untouched? The ruins themselves are not of Sheikah origin, and yet the orb is left here. What is its connection to the origins of this ancient temple? Well, if we look a little closer, there's actually a stone tablet in front of it which reads, "Only a hero bearing this ancient orb shall be granted the right of the trial on Rist Peninsula." This is here purposefully, with the intention that Link will find this someday, meaning that this orb has likely been here for as long as these ruins. The orb itself is linked to a shrine quest on the Rist Peninsula, where if Link manages to bring the orb there, a shrine will reveal itself. But what is interesting is that the lore and history behind all of the shrines is that they were created long ago with the intention of testing the hero someday. What we do know for sure is that both the ruins and the Sheikah trial have been here for some time, with the intention of the hero finding them. Perhaps whoever built these ancient ruins worked alongside the Sheikah to create the trial for the hero. The question then would be, who created the ancient ruins? It's little details like this that really show how deep the lore behind a single set of ruins can go. The real intent for the developers here is just for the player to find them and move on with the game. But in reality, these ruins were created specifically for Link a long time ago, and not just by the Sheikah, but also whoever is responsible for the ancient architecture. It makes you wonder how much of the Sheikah technology and trials was solely their own work. On the last episode of this series, Mr. Gamer over here mentioned that the Sheikah could have collaborated with other races to create their trials, as seen with one of the Rito Shrine quests covered in that video.
On this series, I tried to look at the more obscure and lesser known suggested ruins, but one that I saw a gobsmacking amount of suggestions to cover was the Forgotten Temple. The oldest piece of history in the museum world of Hyrule. There are already a few good theories out there regarding this place, but as per your suggestions, I will go over my own thoughts and theories towards the location. Deep within the far reaches of the Tanagar Canyon is this colossal ancient temple, a crumbling structure described as ancient, and once we step inside, you'll understand why. In the modern day of Hyrule, this place is crawling with stationary guardians that will blast Link the moment he attempts to enter. The inside is a large hall of sorts, likely to hold a large number of people, but something interesting to think about is, why are these guardians here? The immediate thought would be that they arrived during the Calamity. However, this wouldn't make much sense, as there wasn't any inhabitants down here. This temple has been in ruin for much longer than 100 years, meaning that these guardians were likely here for much longer, but without anyone knowing, as nobody ever entered the temple. For one, it isn't exactly easy to access, and two, there are relics of value deeper within the temple. At the back of this large tunneling hall, we can actually find the largest and oldest goddess Hyrule statue still standing. This is heavily believed to be the very same statue from Skyward Sword, which descended to the sealed temple, which some theories suggested that the Forgotten Temple is, at least to some degree, the same sealed temple, but with more added on. Along with this, we can find the Tunic of the Wild, a more traditional style tunic in the classic green often worn by the hero. We also find a Sheikah shrine, which could tie into why we find so many guardians here. What if these Sheikah made tanks were actually here to protect anyone who attempted to enter after it became abandoned? A form of protection for the oldest and largest goddess statue, an outfit for the chosen hero, along with a trial for said hero. It would make even more sense if this was the exact same statue from Skyward Sword, as these guardians were placed to protect the past, the history. This temple was clearly modified to be inaccessible by the average person, and for those that still manage to find their way in, they have a cluster of guardians in the way. Presumably whenever the shrine was built here, the guardians were brought too. It's not confirmed, but the theory of this being the sealed temple and its contents dating back to Skyward Sword does seem rather likely.
In the central region of Hyrule, we can find a few ruins that call back to past games. For example, the Ranch ruins being an obvious tribute to Ocarina of Time's Lon Lon Ranch. But another and sometimes overlooked set of ruins is the nearby Mabe Village ruins, a small settlement not too far from Castletown which felt the wrath of Calamity Ganon's attack in full force. The Mabe Village ruins are actually a direct reference to Mabe Village from Link's Awakening, and whilst many references found within ruins and locations in Breath of the Wild are nothing more than just names, these ruins have a deeper meaning. If we look at the buildings found in Mabe Village in Link's Awakening and compare them to the half-destroyed buildings in Breath of the Wild, we can begin to see some close resemblances. For example, the home with the purple roof can be seen near 1-for-1 in design, with this little side attached on the right too. We can find a small pond which would match up with the fishing pond from Link's Awakening. And our favorite connection, the little rooster from Link's Awakening, can be found atop the well in Breath of the Wild. The layout isn't exactly 1-for-1, but the buildings here are designed very similar and in some cases almost a complete match. Along with the features from the original Mabe Village being present, it's obviously not the same village as well, you know. But it is fun to think about how this village from a completely separate land found its way into Hyrule.
As mentioned earlier in the video, the Akkala region is rather unpopulated and more of a nature-dominated region. The only real settlements are the East Akkala Stable and the Akkala Tech Lab. However, through the work of Hudson of Bolson Construction, Link can assist in building the first ever town in the Akkala region. But was this really the first?
Well, as you can see, there's actually two sets of ruins nearby that could indicate that there was once a town in this scenic region. Below the newly built Tarry Town is a shallow water surrounding the rock the town stands on, and for the most part all you can find here is old transport wreckages and fish. But if you go towards the waterfalls gushing down from the waters of Zora's domain, we can actually find an entire settlement submerged below the water. Between the Tauren wetlands and these waterfalls, we can see 3, possibly 4 buildings completely underwater. They appear to take on the same design as the outpost ruins we find across Hyrule, most prominently the ones in central Hyrule. We see the box design building with the stairs leading to the roof, a larger main building, and an unrecognizable building with a chest, though we can take a guess that this is the same as these buildings commonly found at the outposts. And that's all that's really left of this sunken outpost other than some crumbled bricks and the treasure chests that remain beneath the water. Unlike many ruins found across Hyrule, these were not destroyed by guardians or monsters. Instead, they seem to have flooded from the increasing rain coming from Zora's domain. We know this as we are told that Vah Ruta began to produce rainfall without stop prior to Link entering the beast and reclaiming it. All of this rainfall caused floods and waterfalls to form on the high cliffs surrounding the domain, downpouring into the Akkala region. I mean, obviously this water wasn't here first, as how would this have been built in the first place? Although there is always a chance that it was destroyed by the guardians and then flooded, since if we move over to Tauren wetlands we can find decayed guardians in their masses, along with 2 active ones. We can assume that this was an overflow from the attack on Akkala Citadel. As compared to the strongest, most impenetrable fortress of defense in Hyrule, I doubt whatever was in Tauren wetlands was of high interest, but we do believe there's an argument for a settlement having existed here.
You see, why else would there be an outpost here? The purpose of these guard watch settlements was to keep watch. What are they watching? It couldn't have been Terrytown as it wasn't built 100 years ago, meaning there was likely a settlement within the Tauren wetlands, and we can see some signs of that. Amongst the legions of guardians, there are some ruins which resemble the ancient designs, but no modern wreckages. Could there have been some sort of ancient settlement here? A sacred place perhaps? Although some of the ancient ruins 100 years ago were already destroyed, that doesn't mean that all of them were. I mean, we do see other ancient ruins by the coastline, and Akkala is home to the Spring of Power, another ancient location. Perhaps 100 years ago there was a small village or lone settlement that was created back in ancient times, but still used to some degree, which is why there was an outpost to cover the Tauren wetlands and surrounding area. Just think about it, if there wasn't some sort of settlement here, what on earth could they have been watching? Thanks a ton for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to drop a like as it helps the channel to grow, and consider subscribing for more Zelda content. What do you think of the runes we covered in this episode? Are our theories accurate, or do you maybe have your own thoughts of runes you'd like to see covered in the future? Let me know down below in the comments. Big thanks to MonsterMaze for joining me on this one. It was a ton of fun to collaborate again. We did another video over on his channel talking about where is the entrance to Ganondorf's cave. It's definitely worth a watch. Links below and in the card on screen. Another huge thank you goes out to my amazing channel supporters across Patreon and YouTube. I can never thank you guys enough for supporting me in creating these videos every single week for all of you. The support does not go unnoticed, and special mention to our newest supporters, Clint Courtney29 and Claire Erickson. If you'd like to join them in supporting my work here and get your name at the end of all of my videos and more, then consider supporting via Patreon or YouTube. Again, thanks for watching, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.